right, welcome everybody. My name is Richard, and this is Mike Myers. You know us as the Two Bald Nerds. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us this morning. Mike, how are you, sir?
Doing good, man. Doing all right.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You know, we do have this bald head thing going on. I thought about wearing a hat today because it is October. Halloween's at the end of the month. We could get away with wearing hats and cover this up, right?
Dude, I almost always have a hat on. I'm inside. It's either a hat or SPF 50, you know. So, so it's I'm a big believer in hats. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I have hundreds of hats. I literally have hundreds of hats.
I definitely don't have hundreds of hats, but this is absolutely a solar panel, so it does collect the sunlight very, very well. So I do have hats.
It does. It's true. So what are we talking about today? Is it passwords today?
It is, because it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's not just Halloween time, and passwords are a big item. So, what are your thoughts on passwords?
Well, I think the first thing is a lot of people poo-poo passwords. You know, they're like, yeah, I know complexity, length, all that stuff, and so I'm not going to sit here and do the 8 characters or more, which isn't even accurate anymore, in my opinion. I assume people have a degree of sophistication, but the problem is people still make a lot of really big mistakes when it comes to passwords. I'll tell you, here's an old issue that is still alive and well today. People write down their passwords. If I want somebody's passwords, all I need to do is get in the phone, because invariably people put passwords somewhere in their phone. Years and years ago, but I'm dating myself, but these are still truisms. There was this lady, I wish I could remember her name. She was making a ton of money. It's like she'd come into a conference room and there'd be 300 people in the room. And she was a IT security expert, and she would go, okay, how many people have your pet's or your child's name in your password? Oh, she'd have everybody stand up, okay? If your pet or your child's name is in the password, sit down. Right, and she would keep asking just a series of fairly basic questions, and usually in about 5 minutes, everybody sat down. I don't need to know your exact password. If I can just have a little bit of a clue, I have the tables and the CPU power to crack it, pretty much guaranteed.
Agree, but I do understand the logic behind using things that to create passwords. I think I read something not too long ago that said most people have between 50 and 100 passwords because everything requires a password these days. So that can be a little bit cumbersome to try to maintain a list of passwords. How do you do it? I'm sure you have a ton of passwords.
Well, I obviously I don't want to tell you exactly how I do it, but I do use.
Darn. Almost got you to fall for it.
Well, first of all, don't use English words, or if you're in Spain, don't use Spanish words. Use some amount of arbitrariness to it. For example, here's something I used to do: the F-14 Tomcat, the fighter aircraft. The name of the search radar was called the Anik 7, which, good luck putting that into a rainbow table. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. But then I would take Anik 7, which I would use as the root password, and then I would use certain features of the URL itself to make that particular one unique. So that's a pretty common one.
You have a system. You have a system to create a password in a roundabout way, and I think there's a lot of different ways to do that. Whether it's a passphrase or using, I've heard people use states. Like they when they have to change their password, they use a different state. There's so many different, I guess you could call them mnemonics to a certain degree to try to be able to remember them. But what's wrong with actually, writing them down in a cool little notepad and then keeping that in a safe? Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, interesting you bring that up. VeriSign, that their root password for their root system, right, which is the primary controller for everything, is done exactly like that. Now, this is I can't prove this, but I have it from sources that it's quite true that password, the only place it exists, is written down and in an actual safe. Now, hold on. try to get to the safe, Richard. Okay. I mean, at the levels of it's impossible, but you know, it's interesting to think that literally the one password on the primary, what do you call it? The primary certificate server. I believe I'm going blank. It is done exactly that way.
Well, what about this though? Here's the problem with it. Like, I think each and every system has its pros and cons, but let's say that I'm out and about somewhere and I need to access something on my phone and I do want to log in, but I don't have my little book. It's at home in the safe. It makes it tough to do it unless I can remember that password. And let's face it, when you have 50 to 100 passwords, it gets a little tough to remember.
All right, well then that's going to, okay, so my VeriSign example is really kind of unfair. That's a massive enterprise with, you know, hundreds of layers of security in there. So what's your opinion on some of these password managers?
So this is a controversial one, right? And I'll tell you, I actually use two different ones. And I have a method to my madness. One of them is only on my computer. And I have a single, password that is not written down anywhere. It's something that I've committed to memory. So I can get into it that way. And then I do have an online one as well for, all these miscellaneous logins and so forth that you need for so many random different, features and functions of different websites. So, I mean, I've got kind of my own little system. And, when it comes to the complexity of the password, I've been a firm believer in the complexity of the password, just because, the longer password, capital letter, lowercase letter, number, and a symbol, right? If you can absolutely do it, do it. But that being said, I do think there's actually a better way to even do it beyond that as well, too. It really almost doesn't matter what password you use if you use multi-factor authentication. If you have multi-factor authentication, the password almost doesn't matter. Would you agree or disagree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm always such a security fanatic. Yes, on the surface, multi-factor authentication is absolutely great. I just wish they'd stop using my phone number. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right?
I feel like I'm giving everybody a dog a phone number. And so I do not do multi-factor unless it's like a bank website or eBay or, Amazon or something where I'm really moving some money. Otherwise, right. I get a little heebie-jeebie about giving too many people my phone number. Of course, the other thing you can do, be like me, so not only do I have my regular phone, but I keep lots of burners around, man, just in case. Nice. Oh no, here, Richard.
Secret spy stuff. Nice.
All fully functional, but they all have different jobs. Like one of those is just for hacking wireless. But I do believe that the one thing I do think, if we could just tell anybody one thing, I know we're running short of time already, is I believe in entropy, and I don't think I have any passwords of any serious nature that are less than 15 characters anymore. Yeah. It's just that it's hard. I mean, you've tried to do a brute force attack using rainbow tables. It's hard. It takes a lot of firepower. So if the one thing I'd ask people, come up with your clever system, use a tool, a password tool, and go for length. That would be the big thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are sites out there that you can type in an example of a password and see how long it would actually take that to be broken by.
It's a good, I forgot about that. They absolutely
an offline brute force. Yeah. Now, granted, that's a little more focused because that's an offline brute force, which is less likely to happen unless they absolutely get access to the list of all the logins and the passwords that are hashed, right? But at the same time, it still is an extra step that you can take. But I think it's a lot of different things. I think there's different ways you can do it. And I think if you put all your eggs in one basket, that can be dangerous too. So yeah, I think it's just a balance. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Definitely be smart about where you use. Don't use the same password if you can avoid it, especially on things like your email and your bank, right? You don't want to use those. I can tell you if somebody breaks it.
I honestly hope that people don't think in those terms anymore.
Some do. Some do. I'm telling you right now.
No, I know they do. And the other thing that I'll run into is people will use like, well, these are I don't care if somebody cracks into my, I don't know, OkCupid account or whatever it might be. But I know that whatever their simple password is, they're using some variation of that
version
as their complex password. So I'll
Great.
often use that as a tool too, man. Again, man, if I can knock you down to 8 characters or less, I got you. I mean, it's not even hard anymore. It's not even hard. You really got to be careful about that stuff. And the last thing, Richard, is probably 4 out of 5 times, I don't even bother hacking passwords these days. I'll just social engineer you. And, why bother hacking a password when they just give it to you?
True. Absolutely true. Well, listen, thanks for spending a few minutes with me again today. I know it's always fun talking with you, and passwords are a big deal with it being Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Hopefully people are taking the steps out there to help keep environments safe and keep their information and data safe. Just use your brain, common sense, right? Think
Long
about what you're doing.
passwords.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Be careful, use your brain, and stay safe out there.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, Mike.